The Mueller Report revealed with mixed reviews. Local farming icon Fred Starrh is remembered for contributions to current agriculture, and the holiday weekend begins tomorrow. We examine the meaning of the Easter holiday. This is 17 News at Noon. Good afternoon, I'm Alex Fisher. After an almost 2-year investigation, special counsel Robert Mueller's Russia report is now public. Although parts are redacted by Attorney General William Barr, the report shows the president wanted to fire Mueller and tried repeatedly to control the investigation. Democrats are already planning their next step, including questioning Mueller himself. We get now the latest from NBC's Jennifer Johnson in Washington.
The long-awaited special counsel's Russia report finally public, showing the Trump campaign did not collude with the Russians during the 2016 campaign, and quickly praised by President Trump.
No collusion, no obstruction.
But the report paints a slightly different picture, that the president directed White House counsel Don McGahn to fire Mueller. McGahn decided to quit instead. The president worried the probe could end his presidency, and that he tried at least 10 times to seize control of the investigation. Yet Mueller didn't conclude there was obstruction of justice. Attorney General William Barr ruled it was not, even though Mueller never asked for that determination.
I didn't talk to him directly about the fact that we were making the decision, but I am told that his reaction to that was that it was my prerogative as Attorney General to make that decision.
Democrats are now blasting Barr for allowing the press and the White House to see the redacted report, although neither the president nor staff asked for any changes before Congress saw it. They now want to question Mueller himself.
We'll probably find it useful to ask Mueller to testify, and I assume we may ask members of his team to testify.
Democrats want to see the full report with no redactions. Barr arguing he had to adhere to grand jury secrecy rules and protect witnesses, including intelligence informants. The public can also see the redacted version of the Mueller report available today on the Justice Department's website. Jennifer Johnson, NBC News, Washington.
And our 17 News political reporter Eitan Wallace has been poring over the report since it came out about 4 hours ago. Eitan, what can you tell us about this?
Well, absolutely. Well, first of all, this is the report, all 448 pages of it. It is titled Report on the Investigation into Russian Interference in the 2016 Presidential Election. So a lot of takeaways here, Alex. First, I'm thinking about 3 takeaways in particular. The first is really the main takeaway, which is there was no evidence of collusion. As you see on screen there, no evidence at all of collusion. The second takeaway is that the Russian government, and this is, by the way, something that really should concern everybody, Republicans, Democrats, Americans. Russian government was directly behind an effort to interfere in the U.S. 2016 presidential election. And so that is in itself concerning. And the third takeaway is that this might not be the end of the Mueller report because Mueller does not exonerate President Trump, and there's no conclusion as to obstruction of justice. And by the way, you see there on screen just over a report that lasted a little bit less than 2 years, 199 overall criminal counts, 37 people and entities charged, 7 pled guilty, 5 sentenced to prison, and 1 convicted at trial. So a long time to get here, a lot of things going on. But that overall is the general summary.
Now, of course, this is the full report, but it is also redacted. What are some of the things you saw?
Absolutely. Well, that's a great point that it is redacted. I want to show you this, for instance, this piece of paper. It's called limited redactions. But look, some of these papers in the report, I mean, all this says is just a basically
fully redacted here.
Right, yeah, black boxes. Now, of course, there are legitimate reasons to redact, according to Attorney General William Barr. The reason this one is redacted is because it's, quote, harm to ongoing matters. So there's clearly personal security reasons in this report and whatnot that they needed to redact it for those reasons. Other things to mention, as I also want to show you on screen, are some quotes that I found in the report that is interesting. First of all, you see there President Trump was quoted as saying when he found out about the special counsel, Robert Mueller, being appointed, quote, "Oh my God, this is the end of my presidency. I am," expletive, and that expletive being the F word, which we will not mention on television. And finally, there are 10 episodes of possible obstruction of justice here in the Mueller report. And those episodes range from a number of things, but basically Attorney General William Barr said that Robert Mueller said that those episodes, depending on whichever legal theory you feel, actually could point out to obstruction of justice, one of those episodes being the firing of former FBI Director James Comey. So Attorney General William Barr, though, saying he disagreed with Mueller's legal theories and does not believe that those were obstruction of justice.
All right, well, we knew that this was going to come. Both parties responding to this. What are our local leaders saying?
Absolutely. Well, perhaps not surprisingly, the Democrats and Republicans, very different responses here. I want to show you what T.J. Cox, Democrat of the California 21st Congressional District, said. He said in part, quote, "We have been clear since day one that we believe the American public deserves full transparency in this report that they, the American public, paid for." So clearly, he wants to see the report. He wants to go into it. But Congressman Kevin McCarthy, House Minority Leader, Republican of Bakersfield, had a very different statement. He said, quote, "Nothing we saw today changes the underlying results of the 22-month-long Mueller investigation that ultimately found no collusion." He then added, "It's time to move on." So very different responses from Democrats and Republicans today, Alex.
All right, we're running out of time, but quickly I got to ask you, where are we going to go from here? I mean, you say that the report is out, and it doesn't look like this is the end of the Mueller report.
Absolutely. It certainly might not be the end of it because one party, as you just heard, wants to move on, whereas the other wants to kind of meticulously go through this report. In fact, Congress, if they wish, members of Congress can actually further investigate the president for obstruction of justice. All this while Democrats have called on Robert Mueller to testify on Capitol Hill, Alex.
All right, so a lot of pages to go through, and I know that you're just now beginning to go through them in more in depth. So I really appreciate your coverage all day today, and of course, there's more to come.
Thank you, Alex.
Thanks, Eitan. Well, the Kern agricultural community is mourning the loss of a farming giant. Family members say Fred Starrh died Tuesday after suffering complications from a stroke several weeks ago. He was 89 years old. It's hard to quantify the impact Starrh had on Kern's ag and water industry. He started farming with his dad in Shafter at age 18 on 30 acres of land. His operation grew over the years. He expanded into the Buttonwillow area and grew pistachios and almonds. It was there he became embroiled in a decade-long legal battle with Era Energy suing the oil company for knowingly contaminating groundwater beneath his cotton fields with oil-filled wastewater. The case spanned 13 years and 3 different trials, with Starrh eventually agreeing to a multi-million-dollar settlement in his favor. But Starr's reach extended far beyond his cotton fields. He served as a board member for the Kern High School District, the Kern County Farm Bureau, and CalCOT, just to name a few. He was a founding member of the Shafter Recreation District and an advocate for the arts, and he was a man of faith. Starr's son told 17 News a memorial service has been set for next Sunday, April 28th, at the Mennonite Brethren Church in Shafter. Relay for Life is helping give people an opportunity to honor cancer survivors today. The organization is holding its annual survivor reception. The event not only gives survivors and their families a chance to meet with community members, but people can also sign up to take part in the kickoff for the upcoming relay. The survivor reception is happening this afternoon from 4 to 7 at the Westside Church of Christ on Stockdale Highway at North El Rio Drive. It was a sold-out success. If you were anywhere near our station yesterday, you could probably smell the burgers grilling. It was for our annual fundraiser for the Bakersfield Homeless Center. The barbecue didn't start until 11, but people started showing up 2 hours early. Volunteers sold more than 2,400 burgers, and we even ran out an hour before the barbecue ended. The Bakersfield Homeless Center is grateful for the community's support.
Just like to thank the community for coming out. They always come out and support us, and we had over 180 people stay at the center last night. Over 100 of those were children, so we appreciate the help.
The Homeless Center told 17 News the barbecue raised a little more than $18,000, and that money will be used to buy supplies for the center and help support programs the center offers. So thank you so much for coming out. Welcome back, 17 Newsmakers now, and joining me today is Father Craig Harrison with St. Francis of Assisi, here to talk about several things. Of course, it is Holy Week, and it has already been a very busy week. Thanks so much for joining us this afternoon. Really appreciate it. Let's first talk about something that's been in the news this week, and of course, that is the devastating fire in Paris at the Cathedral of Notre Dame. I've been to that cathedral, and it is just absolutely gorgeous. To step inside and to see not only history, but just know the significance of that cathedral.
For Catholics around the globe, what is this? What is the significance about this fire? I mean, for a lot of people, it's for Catholics, it's more than just seeing a devastating fire in a church.
Yeah, well, I mean, the cathedral is iconic. I mean, I was there in July, said Mass there in July. I was on my sabbatical in Assisi, so I went over to Paris. And I think that, you talk about a structure built in 1163 and this, I think the significance more than anything is just always things we love to hold on in tradition. It would be like your family home that you grew up in many generations burns down. So a lot of people are affected. It's amazing, though, to me, with this fire, some of the beauty that comes out of it. Mm-hmm. And that's what I always look at, the transformation that comes out. All these people coming together. France has gone through so much with terrorism, with all of this, that this tragedy seems to be bringing people together, and a great effort to restore this church and that. And I think it's also made Catholics around the world. Many people in my parish were talking about it the other day, and we were talking about the fact that, even though we have the Vatican and we have Notre Dame and we have places all over the world, the church is still really the people and the spirit of the people, and that doesn't go away.
And it's interesting because this all happened at the beginning of Holy Week, if you will, and that's what a lot of people were so, even to add, kind of put salt in the wound. I mean, it is Holy Week, and you think about that they were preparing for Easter Mass, Good Friday Mass, all the Masses that are set for this week. But like you said, I mean, have you seen kind of that sense of, even though it is Holy Week, there is something beautiful out of this?
There is, and I think that all of us, I mean, even here in Bakersfield, my parish feels united with the people in Paris, and they're asking, what can we do? We want to send some support and that to do this. And I can imagine in our parish, back in the 50s when they had the great earthquake, our church crumbled, and so the services had to be detoured, and they had them outside and things, and people got together and people did that, which became to me a beautiful thing that the church continues, the celebrations continue and all that, even within tragedy.
Right. Now let's talk about Holy Week a little bit. Obviously, today is Thursday. We have Good Friday coming up, and then we have Easter Sunday. What is the significance of this week for Catholics and Christians around the world?
Well, the 3 days we call the Triduum, the 3 holy days. And that for us Christians, it's the culmination of everything that we believe. It's yesterday would have been the day we basically would have acknowledged Judas's betrayal. But then we would take it to our own selves, is how have we sometimes betrayed Christ in our own lives, in the way we've lived and not living the gospel. And then today, Holy Thursday, we celebrate our liturgy, and all churches will celebrate it in the evening, so there's no day liturgies in the evening. And we will have the washing of the feet, which calls us to reflect on what it means to be a servant. How have I been a servant to my family, to my community, and all? And it's also a renewal for us as priests of our priesthood, because it's the institution of the Eucharist. And so as Catholics, it's my favorite Mass of all years tonight. It's one of the most beautiful liturgies, and that. So we look forward to that, but then we end the Mass in silence, and we carry the Holy Communion, the Eucharist, out of the churches, and our churches, for the only time during the year, are empty, representing that Christ in the garden, the emptiness, the aloneness, and we prepare for Good Friday. Now, when I grew up as a kid, it was amazing. Everything was closed on Fridays.
Right.
I mean, you schools, banks, anything, and people really reflected. And I think today we're very, very distracted. But our church will offer times for people to come and to sit at the foot of the cross, to reflect on Christ's death. It's a day of fasting. It's a day of mourning. And with the idea that even then, what do we need to die to self?
Right.
So for us, it has significance of Christ, and then now, and then we lead to the resurrection, where we're supposed to become new creation, new people.
Right, of course, on Easter. Thank you so much for coming in. Really appreciate it. Of course, I know this is a busy week for you, but it is also just such a special week. So I really appreciate you taking time to come in and talk about this very significant week.